Well, hello, everybody. This is Geoff Green again with the Arizona Real Estate and Home Services YouTube channel. And once again, I've got another interview with Chris Stinnett, who runs Foresight Home Inspections, a very good buddy of mine. And Chris, just provide your contact information once more, and then we'll provide it again at the end of the talk here.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. As always, it's a pleasure. Christopher Stinnett here with Foresight Property Inspections. And you can contact me at 480-694-7199.
Awesome. And again, my direct number is 602-790-2927. So Chris and I were talking, and last time we did a top 5 things that he looks for in a home inspection. So we were talking, and we want to continue this series with the top 5 things of the top 5 things. So we're going to take each of those top 5 items that he looks for, and in each one of these individual videos, we're going to go through the top 5 things of those top 5 things. And we're going to start with the roof, the one that keeps you dry and keeps the sun off your head. So Chris, maybe you can just jump right in. What are the top 5 things that you look for when you inspect a roof?
Well, it's going to kind of depend on the style of roof, but for the most part, no matter what the roof is, whether it's asphalt, shingles, tile, or anything of that nature, we're going to, as we're getting up on the roof, I'm looking right away at our drip edge flashing. Tile roofs, do we have edge flashing? If it's a shingle roof, do I see any overlay? For a shingle roof, an overlay means that you can see more than one set of shingles on a home. So it was really commonplace back in the day, and it can still be seen done. And per standards, technically you can put 2 layers of shingles on. So you can put a new layer of shingles over an old layer of shingles, but you can only do that once. Otherwise the weight starts to become too strong. The problem is, though, that actually can reduce the life of your new shingles, and can also cause issues with nails if they don't use longer nails and things of that nature to come out. So that's something that we're looking for right on the edge. And then your drip edge flashing, which is that flashing that comes right off of the eaves. You see it on the rake of the home and the eaves, and it comes down and goes over either a trim board that's on the fascia or right over the fascia. And that's to help keep water from running down the wood. So it runs down that metal fascia, and there's a little kick on it that helps kind of kick that water away from the fascia. And it really, really often you see that now the kick out flashing will be, so at the rake, it should be over your felt or your underlayment, whereas at the eaves, it should be under. So if water does get past your tiles or your shingles and it runs down that water layment, then it should be able to go over that flashing and then come out on top. But a lot of times we're seeing that drip edge flashing over the underlayment. So if water comes down that underlayment, it's able to get under the flashing, and then it holds water in between that flashing and the wood components. This is common. I was doing a home inspection up in Chino Valley, just outside of Prescott there, and it was a new home, about a year old, and that's one of the things I mentioned. So we were going back and forth with the roofer, and the roofer actually said, yes, it's supposed to be under the felt, but we put it over the felt to hold the felt in place while we're putting the roof on. So he admitted that he did do it wrong, but he did it for convenience. So it's funny, we see those things. So right off the edge, we're looking at that to see if we're seeing some things that maybe something to work more investigation. The other thing that we're going to be looking for as we're climbing up on that roof is we're going to be looking at areas where maybe you got a sidewall that meets the roof. So you got a wall of the building and it's meeting the roof, like this, okay, or where a wall comes down and then we've got shingles coming off of that wall, and you're looking for the proper flashing in those areas. And while you're there with shingles, usually it's going to be tacked in place, but with tiles, it's common that they are left unsecured or unnailed. They're not fastened or they're not adhered in place. And then they start to shift. The problem is when tiles start to shift, they start to expose the underlayment, and that sun and the weather starts to beat on that underlayment. And I've seen a roofer that I like and know a lot, and they do a really good job. But just one or two broken tiles in this one area, if left unchecked for a certain amount of time, it's done damage to over 100 square foot of underlayment below.
Yeah, that water gets in there and it really rots that underlayment away.
It really wears on it. So,
Yeah.
you know, so that's another thing. We're looking for shifting tiles. We're looking to see if we see head wall flashing. We're trying to see if everything looks like it may be there. We can't always see everything. We look for possibilities of signs that maybe it's not. So those are some of the things we're looking for. Once we look at some of that stuff, now we're just looking at the coverings themselves. Are the shingles worn? Do they look like they've been wind damaged? Do we see underdriven or overdriven nailing with tiles? Do we see broken and cracked tiles? Do we see shifted tiles that are exposing underlayment? You know, things of this nature. So we're looking to make sure that those primary coverings are in decent shape, reasonable shape, or is there going to be some repair or maintenance needed? Those are really obvious and easy to see. A lot of guys use drones and they can see some of that stuff. I like the idea of a drone when you can't access something. That's great. But really, you know, there's nothing beats getting on the roof and being able to get down and look at these areas. For me, especially with tile roofs, I lift up with some of the tiles in some areas and I'm looking at the underlayment. I want to see, is that underlayment looking brittle? Is that underlayment starting to curl at its layers? You know, looking for those signs to see, okay, we've got underlayment that is getting near the end of its life. So we're looking at those items. Tiles and shingles, they should overlap one another by a certain point. And when you look at a shingle, you can actually see a line on the shingles, the set of shingles that should be overlapped. It's usually lighter in color or in some fashion, and it should be overlapped by the overlaying shingles. Well, the same thing with the tiles should overlap as they're coming down the roof. And there should be 3 inches of covering. So we check that measurement, we lift up, do we have 3 inches or so? If we have less than 3 inches, then it's possible that stretching has been going on. And what I mean by stretching is when maybe a roof company, maybe they underbid the amount of tiles that were needed, or they're trying to save money. And so they'll move those tiles down, say an inch, inch and a half further. And it seems like a little bit, but when you're talking about 20 rows from the peak, that could help you save 2 full rows of tiles.
Sure. Yeah,
so,
that's like putting extra seats in on an airplane, right? You take an inch away from everybody, and presto, you got a couple extra rows in the plane.
Yeah, and then everybody's uncomfortable even more, right?
Yeah. So what causes that? So let me just ask a question here. So I have a tile roof, and there's certainly a difference between a shingle roof and a tile roof. But what causes tiles to shift? Let's suppose you've got the right amount of underlayment, what you're talking about there. What causes tiles to shift? Because I've had people come out to my home a long time ago and said your tiles have shifted. So what causes them to shift typically?
Well, there's a few different things. Amazingly enough, we get storms every so often that are literally strong enough to lift and dislodge some of these tiles. I have a flat tile, probably about an inch, inch and a quarter thick, flat. There's no space like you see with those rounded accent tiles, flat. And a right storm, microburst, whatever comes through, and it can actually lift those and actually shift them. So there's a little lip on the back that's catching a what's called a cleat. So there's little wood cleats every so often, and there's a little lip on the tile that catches the cleats. Okay, stops them from sliding down. But if those are lifted or jostled, or the cleats may be a little damaged, that can happen. Second, if tiles per the current tile standards now, they should be nailed and secured 3 rows up from the eave, 3 rows down from the peak. And then anytime you've got any kind of a ridge, sidewall, head wall, all those tiles, sometimes they're cut so they'll fit into place. But when they cut those, sometimes they don't have a way now to nail them down into place.
Sure.
So those get left a lot of times, and then they start to slide and slip and move as well. That's why they're supposed to be, if you can't nail them, you've got to use an adhesive to help hold them in place. So you've got windstorms, you've got improper installation, you've got just wear of the cleats that are installed, or things of that nature. So also in some cases, the lips are on there are small, and sometimes, just enough vibration, enough settling can move those. So they, over time, as the home shifts, settles, and does its thing that all homes do, they can slowly move and get out of place. One of the reasons for eave risers now being really important, it's also nicknamed bird stop, but it also helps birds. Birds can get under those tiles and some of those openings.
Yeah.
Those rodents, and it helps lift some things, and that can cause issues as well.
Yeah.
So
I got bird stop on I got those S, however you draw it, tiles on my house, and I got those bird stop items, the bird stop sheet metal under there.
yeah.
And they have those little holes in there. They're drip holes, right? And I use them to hang my Christmas lights on, at least in the front of the house. But I've noticed some of those get stopped up, even though I don't have a lot of trees around my house. Some of those holes can get plugged up a little bit. Do you find that causes problems also?
Well, it hinders drainage. So with those being there, you don't have that same open space you had for water to run down if it does get past your tiles and stuff.
Right.
So it allows that little bit of water that may collect under there, and it allows it to drain. So if those holes get stopped up, it's kind of holding water in the area. And you hold water in an area, it doesn't matter if it's concrete, if it's felt, over time, it's going to cause either deterioration, or it's going to find a path that it can get around. So it can cause issues. So this is the importance, again, of annual service and maintenance. Because roofers will go through there, they'll move a certain amount of tiles around valleys and edges, and they'll blow this stuff out. So as dirt and debris flies around in the air, we get our dirt devils. You may not have a lot of trees, but there's debris always moving around in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
As that stuff settles, some of it gets under there. Now, as anything happens, it kind of just falls, runs its way down, and it catches up in those areas. Same way with the valleys. So it's just, to me, that's just part of the extension of clearing out valleys. You'll get debris in valleys. It could be dirt, birds dropping, trees, toys, rocks. Kids throw toys up, rocks, and stuff.
Yeah.
So and all that stuff. But as that stuff builds up, it holds water back. So when water holds back, especially under heavy rain, if water holds back, what it can do is it can actually push backwards, upwards, because it's being dammed, which can allow it to get around certain flashings or seams or whatever that's in the underlayment. So that's the reason that it's important to keep that stuff clear. So we're making sure valleys are clear. If you have a flat roof and shingle roofs, the flat roofs especially, that can hold a lot of debris if you're not cleaning it on a regular basis during that annual inspection. So that debris sits there, it holds moisture, and you can find that the roof materials in those areas can actually wear out faster than other areas, because it's constantly being moistened and dampened and
sure.
So again, keeping that debris off the roof, that's another big thing that we're looking for as well.
So you mentioned annual inspections on roofs, and I know a lot of people, it's like, if it's not leaking, why should I bother to inspect it? So what's your view on that? Should you have a regular annual inspection every couple of years, wait till it leaks? What do you suggest homeowners do just to make sure that the roof, if you got a 10 or 15 or 25-year guarantee, I'm sure you've got to do something in that interim period to make sure that it's still holding together properly. What is your view on annual inspections?
Well, let's go with the guarantee first, because people count on those guarantees and those warranties a lot. And a good company will have a good guarantee. Your shingle manufacturers may have a warranty on the shingles, but there's a lot that goes into play. If you haven't been doing the proper maintenance, if for some reason some portion of it wasn't installed correctly or anything like that, all those warranties can be voided.
Yeah,
those guarantees can be voided. So maintenance, it's just like your car. If you go, well, we'll just wait until the engine light comes on and then I'll get maintenance, or I'll get it fixed. By that time, your car is losing extended life for its use. You're probably going to be paying a lot more in repairs or tune-ups than what you just taken it in before there was an issue, and all that stuff. I know, but think about it. Even with our bodies, I ignored some signs of fatigue and some fading eyesight and things of that nature. I ignored that, and because I ignored that and wasn't going into the doctor just to get things checked, I ended up with a bad body infection that put me in the hospital for a week, and then I had a few weeks of recovery. So It's the same way with other components, our cars and everything else. If we wait until there's a problem, we've already allowed more damage to build up and more wear.
Sure.
I have a water heater. My first one lasted 17 years. My second one, 5.5. It was all rusted out. I hadn't really drained it in a few years, and I heard some sediment in there, but you know, we ignore these things sometimes. The roof, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If it's not a leak, no one feels there's a problem. So that dirt and stuff that's been building up continues to build up. That cracked tile that's been cracked or broken, exposing underlayment, that's how you end up with 100, 200 square feet of damage instead of just fixing a tile.
Yeah.
So instead of a few $100, now you're paying, you know, maybe $1,000, $1,500.
Sure.
So it's important. And what people don't understand is if you get annual inspection maintenance on a roof, it can actually extend the life of your roof by 5 to 10 years.
That's what I've been told. Yeah.
That's significant. So
Yeah.
we're like, well, we don't want to pay somebody to go up there. You know, maybe a roofer a roofer, if it's not a new home, there's good roofing companies out there I'll even give a shout out to like Eco Roofing and State 48. They do free inspections. Now, if it's a new home where they have no chance of earning business, then they usually charge. I get that, completely understandable. But a lot of times they come out and do free inspections. And they'll say, hey, here's a condition, here's this, here's a service, and here's what it costs. But if you only had to pay, $200, $300, even $800 that year to make sure everything's done and it's all maintained, but you can extend the life by doing that by 5 to 10 years, you're saving yourself 5 to 10 years, let's say 10 years, that's half the life of a roof typically out here in Arizona. So half the life of a roof, say a 2,500 square foot home, let's say you're looking at about 15 grand, you're saving yourself almost 7 grand in extended life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing that little bit of maintenance and stuff. So I know it seems hard, but if people put it down on their calendar or remember it, it can save them a lot. Plus any conditions coming, hey, just so you know, we see this happen and it looks like this. So we went to your attic and we noticed there's some dripping. You got a leak starting. So before that ruins insulation and drywall and causes more damage.
Yeah.
Like us to fix that.
Yeah.
Whereas normally it wouldn't be caught, and then it's not caught until you see stain on a roof or ceiling.
Yeah.
Got a leak, and then in some cases, some people let things go, and then all of a sudden the drywall and everything just comes
it falls down. I remember a picture of the drywall falling down. But one of the things that was confusing to me when I started in real estate long time ago is that the roof that you can see is not the most important part of the roof. Like on a tile roof here, like I said, I have those S-shaped roofs, right? And you can see that they look pretty good. Those tiles actually have a 50-year warranty on them, and some people think that as long as they're not cracked or they're still there, then my roof is still good. What the heck? I got a 50-year warranty. I don't need to do anything. But what's important for people to understand is the underlayment that keeps the water out, and those tiles are there just to protect the underlayment. Any comments on that, or whether you can see damage from the ground or maintenance issues?
When it comes to the underlayment, you're just not going to see that from the ground.
Yeah.
For a tile roof, you're going to have to get up there and look under some tiles.
Yeah.
When it comes to shingles, you really can't see the underlayment unless you start removing shingles.
Right.
You're going to have to replace shingles. So you're right. A lot of that you can't see. So people think, oh, well, those tiles look great. And I was just having a conversation with a client recently about that, because they were asked, they're like, well, we were told this roof is a 50-year roof. The tiles are 50
tiles are 50 years.
Actually, most of them can last longer, but there was some sort of rule, state or some sort of building standard that says, well, you got to put a year on it. You got to give some sort of a year rating or something like that. So they said, okay, we'll call it 50 years. But a lot of those tiles can last longer than that, where some are going to get broken. It's just going to happen. If you live near a golf course.
Yeah.
That is pretty much protecting, like you said, that's protecting the underlayment. While it sheds a majority of the water, it's not the waterproofing agent, it's that underlayment. And those are there for aesthetic and protection of the underlayment. So to really look at the waterproofing agent, you're going to have to lift some tiles.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, it's good to get up there and walk around. So So that's a good summary of the top things that you would look at on the roof. Let's do this. Can you wrap that up in 30 or 40 seconds and sort of give our watchers sort of a package deal on what they ought to be thinking about on their roof on a regular basis, and then I think that'll be a good show for this week.
Yeah,
Or this month, I should say.
if you're looking, a really good inspector, property inspector, or a good trusted roof that just an annual inspection of the roof. And what you're going to be looking for are there broken tiles? Are there damaged shingles, depending on what you have? Do you see wear, granule loss on shingles? Do you see, the bitumen seals around penetrations for your vents and exhaust penetration and stuff going through the roof? Is the bitumen around that good? Typically that stuff starts to dry out after a year or two. So you want to keep an eye on that, so leaks aren't getting in around that. So you want somebody to get up there, roughly once a year is best. If you really got to stretch it out in 2 years, okay, but really once a year is recommended. And you're looking for that debris in the valleys. You're looking for broken and cracked, missing, displaced, shifting tiles, damaged, wind torn shingles. Looking at your flat or your penetrations, your seals around the penetrations, looking for cracks, gaps, and things like that water can penetrate. Yeah. For the most part, those things right there kind of give you an idea. Do you need to look deeper, or are things looking okay? And we do this and we're good for another year.
Good deal.
Now, all of that is just your basic. Every once in a while, you do get those storms once in a while. That doesn't matter how good you keep your roof in, some damage happens.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, good. That's awesome. So let's help our listeners out again. If they want to get a roof inspection from somebody who knows what they're doing, how do they get in touch with you? You got an email address, phone number, what's best? And let's get these people to think about calling you for having their roof inspected.
Sure, absolutely. So Christopher Stinnett, Foresight Property Inspections. And I'm old, but I'm trying to catch up and everything. So email is FPI, as in Foresight Property Inspections. So FPI inspectors @gmail.com. And phone number is 480-694-7199. You can even reach me out by text if you're not much of a talker, but I do end up wanting to get a call just because of all the scams that come through text. But I try to communicate in all ways. Yeah.
Good deal. Well, that's about a good wrap for this month on top things to watch for in an inspection. So tune in next month. I'm not sure what our topic's going to be, but I think it might be the top 5 things of the second most important thing that Chris looks for in a home inspection. So once again, subscribe to this channel and you'll get updates on a regular basis. You can reach me at Geoff at Geoff Green Real Estate. That's Geoff with a Green, last name, the color of money, JeoffGreenRealtor.com. And call me at 602-790-2927. And you guys have yourself a great month. And we'll talk again, Chris, in another month.
Sounds great. Okay. Thanks so much for having me on, Geoff.
You're welcome. Talk to you later.
All right. You have a good day.
Bye-bye.